We're excited to be here. We do have masks for those who want to come but don't have any, so please don't keep that from having you join us. So we have those here. We have a little sanitizing station, and we are well spaced between people, so that's what it looks like here right now. We will not be singing during any of the songs tonight, but we hope you all enjoy the music. Thanks to Bridget, Robin, and Sierra for volunteering their time with the Sunshine Soup Kitchen. They have a need ranging from needs of items like toiletries to trash bags, so please see the weekly email for that, as well as other needs and opportunities to give and share what we have with those in need. Also, there's an announcement about Salem Fest and Horton Center and other things. Also, as well, on our traditional Wednesday evening services, please remember to share your offering in the plate that's here, or you can mail it into church or give online. Thank you for that. Now on to a God moment. This is a beautiful one. This is by Jenny Pickett. And she shares, as some of you know, I have recently bought a home in Hudson and sold my home in Salem, all within a space of 24 hours. This COVID time has been so much sorrow, so much joy, so much change. As I was sitting in my back patio, a huge deer came out from the woods, and I mean huge. I was grateful my hunter son was not in the state at the time. This deer and I just looked at each other, and he didn't bolt, and he didn't run. He quietly moved closer to me as I held my breath. And then I did breathe, calmly, deeply, slowly. And for me, that was God and David saying, just breathe, Jenny. It will be okay. We got you. And I felt better. We are not alone. We are being held. Sometimes we just need to breathe. So thank you so much, Jenny, for that. And we welcome any God moments you have to share. Please share them with us. We all could use lifting up or just sharing of whatever moments you have, whatever they're like in your lives. Now for the passing of the peace. Usually we come up with little things to say, do. I found, let me find it back here, a scripture passage that just is a very simple one from Matthew chapter 18, verses 20. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I among them. So I just want to wish you all peace. Peace be with you. It's so wonderful to have you here. Now we'll move on to the call to worship.
Oh, we on? On a personal note, I just welcome everybody, and we have a new one. Hold it really close. Okay. We will now have our call to worship. The candles are lit. Our bell has rung. Though our bodies may be distant, to God whom we praise each and every instant. And now we will have our opening hymn by Lily, Let Us Talents and Tongues Employ. Holy Creator, recreate us now as one fellowship of people who are living, worshiping, experiencing your world each and every day through the teachings of Jesus. In this discipleship, we recall the words of your Son, who taught us to pray by saying,
Would all those young and young at heart please come forward? So, how much do you think this brick weighs? 1 pound. Pounds. Anybody else? 3 pounds. Well, not all bricks weigh exactly the same, but an average brick weighs about 5 pounds. That isn't very heavy, is it? You could pick up this brick easily. However, could you hold this brick like this? Maybe for a few minutes, but what about all day? Because the longer you hold it, the heavier it's going to feel. So that same thing is true of the burdens that we carry around with us. So what are some of those burdens? Here are a few examples. Some of you may be having trouble with your schoolwork. Perhaps you're having trouble at home. Perhaps you may have a serious illness. Maybe feeling guilty about something you have done. Your family may be having financial difficulties. Or maybe one of your friends is making fun of you. That's a pretty heavy load to have to carry by yourself, isn't it? Well, the good news is that we don't have to carry it alone. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, me."
Vindicated by her deeds. May God add his blessing to this word.
Welcome. It's so nice to see all of your faces, even with the masks. It's wonderful to hear your voice and your laugh. So welcome. For everyone who is ready, able, and comfortable to engage in physical worship. The long wait is over. did we stop worship? I only ask because we cannot have a beginning until something ends. So when did we stop worshiping God? Stop praying to God. Stop thanking God for her graces. Was it on March 26th when the stay-at-home order was put into place? Do we stop worshiping God or stop helping our siblings when we leave the sanctuary on Sunday mornings? Of course not. We are here right now in worship on Wednesday night. We help in the soup kitchens on Tuesdays. We plant flowers. We share our music. We participate in committees all week long. And One of the microphones did not work? Neither one not. There we go. Sorry about the technical difficulties. And plant flowers all week. Yes, that's where we're at. And participate in committees all week long. So when did our faith end? For without an end, our worship today could not be a new beginning. Maybe the words new beginnings are inaccurate. And today is something even more beautiful, something more wonderful, something I like to call an everyday miracle. Maybe today is the day we are being recreated by God as a church who is learning to live while waiting. Before we begin though, would you pray with me? Creating God, recreate us now through the vision of worship, so we may learn how to live through these trying times of waiting. May the words of my mouth and the meditations on all our hearts be pleasing to you. Now, thinking of our church as recreated makes more sense to me, because our faith does not end while we are growing, while we are learning, while we're going to just change mics right now. Because our faith does not end while we are growing, learning, and becoming closer to God. Things which we did as a congregation throughout COVID-19. We grew when people in other states started to watch our services on the internet. We learned how to be in community through emails and regular mail, through phone calls. We even discerned how to call each other into this beloved ministry in new ways while holding on to our traditional values. This church has It was in our scripture reading from the Song of Solomon where I witnessed this beautiful moment of waiting today, where one lover waits for another. But to truly understand this allegory, by the way, an allegory is a poem which has a moral lesson, we must understand who the speakers of the poem are. Personally, I lean towards the interpretation provided by the theologian J. Sherrill Exum. She says that Christians tend to view the male persona in the Song of Solomon as Christ, and the female persona as the church. Now, taking this approach, which sounds very much like our traditional understanding, we see Christ as the one who is waiting for us. He's joyful, loving, and calling to us from beyond our walls, our lattice, and our windows. It is Christ who is calling to us as people, as a church, as individuals, to arise and join him, to come away with him. What an amazing thought, that Christ could be patiently waiting for us, waiting behind the walls we have created, be those the walls of tradition, the walls of faith, or even the emotional walls that we create throughout our lives. Still, he patiently waits, loving us until we are ready. Relating this poem to our recreated church today, I see that we have stuck our head out that window, poked our fingers through the lattice, tore down one of the walls barring our path to Christ. We became one step closer to the church, which God is calling us to become. We are one step closer to coming away with Christ to the kingdom of heaven. For me, the recreation is a miracle and something to be celebrated, rejoiced, and praised as we worship here together. Still, there are more walls in our way. Christ is still waiting for us to come away. We are not yet ready to enter the kingdom of heaven here on earth. We are not yet ready because there are still defensive walls we hide behind. Walls which are comfortable, traditional, normal. Could some of these walls be the way we choose to worship? I believe they could be. When we say things like, it has always been that way, so it won't be worship if we don't do it that way. This idea sounds comfortable and secure, like a wall. A wall that had to fall away when we had to recreate worship during the pandemic. Yet we know now that we were still worshiping God, even though we had changed this way of worship. Now, the passage from the Gospel of Matthew also shares this concept when it tells of a generation of people who would not dance or mourn because it was not the worship they knew. Instead, this generation of believers judged John as having a demon and Christ as a drunkard. To put it plainly, when John and Christ offered them ways to be recreated as a church, that generation offered judgment. These people were stuck in the safety of how they viewed worship. They remained safe and secure, but behind their walls, their lattice, and the windows of their own making. In the end of the passage, though, we discover that wisdom is vindicated by her deeds. Now we can go further into what wisdom means in the Old Testament, but let's just take this as the wisdom which John and Jesus revealed to them was proven to be true when the followers of Christ grew, learned, and became closer to God. This, my beloved friends, is the good news, for our actions throughout COVID-19 have already vindicated wisdom, and that our recreation of the church has become a blessing, a miracle, a step closer to the kingdom here on earth. For everyone who is part of this congregation, whether you are here physically, electronically, or whether you are reading this script when I send it out next week. However, this passage from the Gospel of Matthew also points to another aspect which we should explore. For even though today is a celebration of the church we are becoming, a recreation, an end to a wall, there are more walls ahead, like I mentioned. more ways we are blocked from Christ, more opportunities to recreate our church together. So more people will find a welcoming home here. To engage more, so we can learn better ways to engage crises like COVID-19. So we can become closer to God. While we are doing this though, we cannot stop worshiping, for our faith does not end. We need to continue to dance and to mourn, even if we are not sure how our worship is going to become. Even if we have to set aside the grace of singing for a time, or the passing of peace for a season, we are still worshiping God together. Now I invite you to ponder something else for a moment. What do any of these thoughts have to do with living? Remember, the title of this message is Living While Waiting. To be alive and enjoy even when we are unable to do the things we enjoy in this life because of this quarantine. Now, I believe this has been a struggle for many people since March 26, and will continue to be so for the weeks, possibly the months, hopefully not the years to come. What if things never return? What if movie theaters never reopen? If stadiums remain empty? If homeschooling becomes the normal teaching format? Will we still be alive? Yes. Yes, just like we will still worship. And throughout this message, you can easily replace the word living with the word worship, and discover that we already know how to live through this type of struggle. Now, this may mean that we have to recreate our lives, just like we have recreated worship. Discover new ways to enjoy life, or new ways to provide for our families. We may have to grow. We may have to learn. We may have to even become closer to each other to do this everyday miracle. But those gifts are here amongst all of us in this congregation, for we have already recreated worship, proven that it is possible. So even though the world may not return to the way it once was, just like our worship service may not return to the same exact format, we have proven that we are capable of worshiping, living, and loving even while patiently waiting. May your lives be a reflection of our church, recreated as it comes one step closer to Christ, who is lovingly waiting for us to grow, to learn, and to become closer to God. Amen. Our middle hymn today is As We Gather at Your Table.